waiting for Christopher Lloyd to bounce through, like going
1.21 gigawatts.
1.21 gigawatts of crazy. How are you, man? I'm sorry. I was trying to start, but I knocked my entire system over when I was trying to click you in. Fucking idiocy over here. Sorry.
It's one of those days, man.
Yuri Lowenthal, it's so good to see you, man. It's nice to have a
Like,
hero on board, man. We miss you.
oh, thanks. You've got just a team of heroes though. And
Yeah.
that was it's why I'm glad we get a chance to talk like this, because every time I see you, you're like surrounded by heroes, and we never
Yeah.
get a chance to actually catch up.
No, we don't, because you're big time in us and you got a bunch of other podcasts to do that are way more important. But you know how it goes with heroes. I mean, it's kind of like the Super Friends. I mean the Super Friends from the 70s, where
Oh, I remember.
you look around and at one point if Batman's missing, you're like, what the fuck's happening here? And then if Aquaman's there, you're like, what the fuck is he doing here?
Right.
So it's kind of, you got to take your heroes in batches, the skill
That's
set.
true.
How you
That's
doing,
true.
man?
I'm doing all right. I'm hanging
Yeah.
in. Yeah.
Kids okay?
Working hard.
The kid's
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, he's good. He's at school,
Yeah.
which is probably good for everyone. He's
Most of all him.
most of all him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, before we get started, just Tara,
Yeah.
I was going to reach out to Tara about maybe doing an interview on her book if she'd like.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
You cool with that?
I'm cool with that, and I bet she'd be cool with that too.
Oh man, happy to do it. So when I knocked my computer over, a bunch of shit came out of it, like things popped out of the back and stuff, and I just slapped
That's
it back
never
together.
good. That's never good.
Yeah. So I'm wondering,
I mean, I'm not a
hopefully-
computer guy. I'm not a computer fixer guy, but that does not sound good.
it doesn't sound good, huh? It just popped out, but then you can slap it back in. So I'm guessing, hey, maybe, who knows? Well, we'll see.
Hey, we're talking to each other right now, so it must have worked.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm hoping. I've had a lot of computer issues, and just the very concept of it makes me nervous. All right, so listen, we know you're epic. There's no reason to ask how you are. You're the most upbeat guy in the business. You're a wonderful human being. You've done all kinds of great charitable work with us, and you are every bit of the hero we say we are. But one of the things I wanted to ask you, and I want your opinion on this: Oscar nominations.
Oh man,
Have you taken a look at them yet?
I have not. Did they just come out?
They came out this morning.
They came out this morning. I have not gotten
This
a
morning
chance to
or
look at it.
yesterday morning? You know
So
what I was
what
going to say, huh?
Yeah. I was going to say, what are you? Were there any surprises for you, or were there any? Oh yeah, I knew it was going to be that.
I have to admit, I don't follow too closely. The quality of the movies that are coming my way,
Mhm.
I don't fully embrace. I actually almost
Right.
like television more. I
Yeah.
hate to say that because that's not what a kid of the 80s would ever,
No,
should
but
ever be able to tell
television
you.
is different these days.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like some of the best stuff. I mean, like, look, throw a toothpick in your mouth and all of a sudden you're a completely different person. Jackie Daytona, right?
Right. Oh, Jackie Daytona. God, I love Matt Berry. I'm glad. One of the things I'm most glad for about what we do in the shadows is that America has finally embraced the brilliance of Matt Berry.
Oh,
I
yeah.
hope. Yeah.
A master. I mean, a master of voice and diction. I mean, how that guy set up his retirement, even if he was never hired on another project. His retirement plan is teaching speech classes
Got to.
for high dollars. I mean, just like the way he in Manhattan,
Manhattan.
you see
Oh,
you've seen all the episodes, I'm sure, but I
Yeah.
particularly love the one where he has the hat made out of like witch's skin.
which are foreskin? Is it all foreskins? Is it all?
Yeah, something
yeah.
like that. Yeah. And he goes, that hat is cursed. You're right. It is cool, I said. And then of course he somehow slams his cape and the taxi door gets dragged down the block. Just so brilliant. I mean,
It's so
I don't
good.
know. I mean, my sense is that show's fun to do.
It's gotta be. It's gotta be.
It's gotta be.
And
It's
the people that they get to work on it, and they all just seem like they're having the best time. They're a bunch of old friends,
Mhm.
and and Harvey Guillen, who plays Guillermo,
Yeah.
is just
Genius.
such a joy to have found that guy. I mean, he's great in the new Puss in Boots movie.
Yeah.
Um,
Genius.
I love that we're going to spend Oscars morning talking about our favorite TV shows. I think that's pretty badass, Ethan.
Well, when the TV shows are actually better than a lot of your Oscar nominations, what choice have you? I mean, we both have a mutual friend on it, Doug Jones, right?
Yeah.
He plays the Baron. And I've
Yeah.
never asked him about it. I haven't had, it's just never come up between us. And, in moments like this, it comes up like, why haven't I asked about it? But
Yep.
that's the idiocy you get with this show here. I don't ask the important questions when the time is right. I think to ask them months later. But
Well, when you know so many cool, famous people like you do, it's hard to remember to ask them all the pertinent questions.
way to punk me, Yuri. We know which one of us in the room here, or in the two rooms here, me or you and Doc Brown's garage, know the cooler people. But yeah, I watched that show and I go, man, like that whole that whole episode where they have to go to the nightclub of vampires, and the familiars have like a room and back by the freezer in which they all have to hang out with, and like one guy is like, he's basically run by like the two pimps that are these two vampire kids. Have you seen that? Anyway,
yeah, it's so, I mean, they were so, the original movie was great, and I remember thinking, TV show, I don't know what, but it was so smart because you can really just blow out that world so much. I mean, their world building on that show is nuts.
The production design is beautiful too. The sets are incredible. The whole deal.
Yeah.
We were at the Haunted Hotel in Los Angeles for dinner a couple nights ago. Have you been there yet?
No, what is that?
Oh man, it's right across from Musso and Frank's. It's fun. We are going this week if you guys want to drop in. Actually, I've got a ticket in if you really want to go. I'll tell you off air.
Like a horror themed like restaurant?
Yes, yes. And it's beautiful. It's the most exquisite 1920s looking setup, and the food is actually good. So we were there, and in walks this guy with this beautiful long coat, and he's right out of From the Shadows. And Sean immediately does her Nandor accent and goes, this effing guy.
This effing guy.
She refuses to say the F word and swear, but she's like, this effing guy.
She's a good kid, and every time she opens her mouth, she gets better.
I know, it's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious. Yuri, so you don't have much of an opinion either way on this Oscar thing. I'm really kind of let down by the Oscars, but I did see Everything Everywhere All at Once. I thought that was pretty inventive.
Was that that was arguably one of my favorite theater going experiences of the last year. Did they get nominated for something?
Yes, I think Michelle Yeoh is nominated for.
Okay, great.
The Academy does this. She should be nominated for this, but the Academy does this, don't you think, where they tend to reward you with the nomination years after you really should have gotten
after you really deserve it. Yeah, like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, but we'll wait 20 years to nominate her for
Yeah. But it's some good stuff. I was going to make a point about it, but I forgot. Have you seen Maverick?
No, I haven't. Wait, Maverick? Which Maverick? With
the Top Gun?
Oh no, sorry. Yeah, no. I still haven't seen Top Gun Maverick.
Neither have I.
I know, and I hear it's the best.
We're the only two Americans who haven't seen it, which makes us unpatriotic, I guess. No, I haven't seen it. Here's the thing. It was coming out.
Do a whole episode where we watch it live and just comment.
Oh, let's do that. Oh, please carve out some time to do that. That'd be funny because I haven't seen it either. It'll be very fresh. No, I showed my kid goes. It was coming out, so I showed Sean. I said, "Do you want to see Top Gun?" And I have to admit, I was always kind of lukewarm to Top Gun myself. Mm-hmm. Coming from a Navy family, it was kind of like almost revolting to see it. But she's watching it, and at the end of the movie, she goes, "This is a movie about nothing."
Yeah,
and I go, "Yeah, pretty much. It's all visuals. It's just basically an MTV video."
Yeah,
Right. And she's like, "I kept expecting." She said two things that didn't occur to me. She's like, "Iceman was right. He is dangerous." And
right.
She goes, "Did they cut out the scene where a relationship sparks out, or a relationship sparks up between them all after the volleyball match?"
Right.
Like she thought it was she thought it was a complete homosexual thing. And I'm like, well, no, God, that's so fun. That didn't occur to me when I saw the movie as a kid.
Quentin Tarantino does a whole monologue about it in another film. As Quentin, I mean, playing basically himself. But the homoeroticism of Top Gun is undeniable.
You know what, you got to love the Bruckheimer-ness of it all, where he's like, "Look, we got a bunch of good-looking guys here, and we're paying for them. So off with the shirts.
Use it.
We're doing some volleyball." And I can't remember the last time me and a group of friends were hanging around at work and decided, let's go out and shoot. Let's play some volleyball.
Let's play right with our shirts off. Right?
Let's strip out of these shirts and play some volleyball. Right. So funny stuff.
We're older now. We keep our shirts on. We don't want anybody to see that.
I know. Look, why scare people? I'm frightening enough when I walk into a room. Why scare them even further, man? Anyway, so I've not seen Maverick. So our review of Maverick is absolutely, coming your way, I guess.
Right. Eventually.
What have you seen that you can recommend? I mean, I know the best movies and TV shows, Yuri, are the ones you are in. But
Oh,
outside
thank
of what's
you.
the second tier of
That's
awesomeness we should look out for?
that's very sweet of you. I'm trying to think of things that I've seen recently. I had heard. I mean, I think David O. Russell is a garbage person, but I really liked Amsterdam.
Ah,
I had heard sort of mixed things on it, and the gripes that people had, I didn't really have with it. I really enjoyed it.
good.
We saw that just recently. Um, but I know we've seen some other good stuff lately.
Glass Onion.
I'm blanking. A Glass Onion was good. I didn't love it like I
Neither did I.
wanted to love it, but I'm a huge Ryan Johnson fan. Like, that guy could retire on his first three films, and he'd still be one of my favorite directors.
Didn't you
So
work with
me,
him on something?
I I did a live show once with him, an episode of a Thrilling Adventure Hour, and I was I was such a huge fan, and I
Uh,
was so nervous to go up and talk to him. Like, we were all backstage, and he was sort of off in the corner, like, go over and over script, and I'm like, just go over and tell him, you love Brick and you love Brothers Bloom and Looper, and just go say, hey man, like, just the
yeah.
bare minimum. And I couldn't get myself to do it. He was like, so, like, I didn't, and maybe it was that I didn't want him to be a dick. Although if he was on that stage with that group of people, I know he wouldn't be, but just because it's a good group of people. Um, but in the past I've met sometimes, people that you want to be heroes,
Mhm.
and they're just having a bad day, and they deserve that, but it's hard. I just couldn't, like, I didn't know what to say, so I didn't even go
Yeah.
talk to, I didn't even go and say hi.
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes the tribute moment can go south. Someone actually just told me a moment about you, and I can't remember. It may have been David Arrigo. He who's very complimentary, I should say, about your book. He
He's
said your book is one of the reasons he's a pro.
he actually wrote a piece for our, we asked when we did the revised edition of voiceover
Mm.
voice actor. We went out sort of the world. We're like, hey, did anybody read this book and find some success in it? They're like, or did you feel any of it was worthwhile, and now you're using that in your job?
Mm.
And David Arrigo, Jr. got back to us, and he wrote a whole piece in the updated edition. Darren DePaul, who, if you've never had on the show before, you got to do that.
Well,
Uh,
get him for me. I'm glad
okay.
you went to David for it, but I mean, I guess if you don't want to reach out to me, David Arrigo's a pretty good fucking
You
son.
were you were
Come on.
already you didn't need any of the information in that book.
Oh,
You
you'd
were
be
already a
surprised what I
pro.
can
We
pick up.
met you.
Yeah, well, that's see, ladies and gentlemen, that's how you recover from a moment like that. That's absolutely the stroke. Now you have to get the book. Did you see that? Did you catch that brilliance?
That's how you deal with hecklers, folks.
Yeah. Yes, but he said something about it. Might have been somebody was very complimentary about you, and it came up that you saw. Was it Jake Gyllenhaal at a diner,
Oh yeah, that's a
and
whole
you wanted to
story.
say hello, and it just didn't
It
come
did not go.
together.
It did not go well. Yeah,
He's a guy that I think enjoys to some extent putting people who approach him on off balance.
that would make sense. I mean, on one hand, don't go up and talk to famous people in restaurants.
No, you should
That's
not. You should not.
Just don't. Like, that's rule number one. And I thought I had a good reason to do it, and it wasn't good enough.
Well,
Because I played the prince in the Prince of Persia video game, and he played it in
yeah.
the movie, and I thought that would be enough to start a conversation, and and it wasn't.
I
It didn't go all the way it went in my head. I'll put it in my memoir.
put it in your memoir. Someone just told the story. I can't recall who it was, but I mean, here's the thing that I side with you. I do believe that's enough to start a conversation. That would be
Sure.
enough commonality or common ground. But I'm also a normal human being and not an android. And there's just my suspicions about him. I feel like I've had other people approach him who've worked in the business or been executives at places, and he just kind of comes off as a like, why are you talking to me guy?
Right.
And I don't know if he's always like that, or if you got him on the bad day, or if everyone I know has also gotten him on the same bad
On a
day.
bad day. Right.
But
Maybe he's just not a people person.
yeah, you're right. Don't unless you're Charlie
Okay.
Schlatter, who is automatically makes himself the mayor of any town he's in.
Yes. That
He
guy
can,
walks into any room and just takes it. Yeah.
he can. I went to see him and his band play on Friday night or Saturday night, and he's
I
like
didn't even know he
working
was
it
in
up.
a
He's like,
band.
"Oh, dude, it's hilarious." They're called "Get Off My Lawn." They play Chewy's, which is the ultimate dive bar, totally appropriate for Schlatter. And
Oh my
but
God.
here's the thing. So he goes, "Do you know Scott Schwartz?" So Scott Schwartz got his tongue stuck to a post in a Christmas story, and then he goes, "Do you know this guy?" Well, this guy actually got run over by the DeLorean in Back to the Future 3. I mean, Charlie Schlatter is just like the man and the place and the resumes all at once. Like if he wasn't a great actor, he'd be a great publicist. In fact, I think his
Yeah.
wife was a publicist, actually. Maybe that's
Oh,
why. Anyway,
yeah. You learned everything you knew from everything you know from her.
yeah, yeah.
That you reminded me that that Christmas story, a Christmas story or something, the new one that came out this year with
Hmm.
all the original cast was actually
Right.
delightful.
Did you like
I
it?
was yeah, I was they hit all the right notes with. I mean, you can only do so much with a
Yeah.
sort of a retread of that. Um, but they it seems like they avoided a lot of the pitfalls that I thought they were going to fall into. I thought it was
I
delightful.
I am glad you found some joy in it. I was rooting for that movie.
Yeah.
I saw the original in the theater. I was the only kid in the theater when it would first hit. I've interviewed Ian Petrella, the brother Randy, from the house in the movie. Well, the house
Oh
that's
my God.
was the exteriors that they revamped the insides to
Right.
the tourist attraction that now serves or stands as the house in most people's minds. I love those guys. I love all those guys. And Peter
Have you?
Billingsley is a class act when you come
Yeah.
across. He's a guy you could talk to, I think, at a Denny's.
Yeah. Gotta be.
Yeah.
Have you ever had Zach Ward on the show who plays a Scott Farkas?
No, but man, I would love to talk to
I
Zach.
met I met Zach in a restaurant once. We were the only me and Tara were sitting at a table, and Zach and this photographer were sitting at a table for brunch, and we were the only two people there, and so we just ended up like talking because it took forever to get served, and super nice guy, and
Yeah.
I've loved sort of his like career track has been kind of cool, but
Yeah, he's done well for himself. I mean, they
yeah,
did something really good with his character, I think, in that A
yeah,
Christmas Story Christmas or whatever it is, Christmas
yeah,
Stories
I think you're
Christmas
right, yeah.
Vengeance or
Right. Speaking of which,
Operation.
Violent Night. I loved Violent Night. If you haven't seen Violent Night, it's
Good.
Die Hard, but with Santa Claus. It's the best.
Oh man. Did I ever tell you about the time we did a Christmas show with all the terrorists from Die Hard in studio?
No.
Talk
Um,
about a group
I,
of actors that have a lot to say to each other, and it's all based in this faux reality of their hijacking of Nakatomi Tower. I had to stop and be like, "You guys do know you did a movie, right? It wasn't a real hijacking." Because they were all blaming each other for the
right.
failed mission. you know?
Are you sure you didn't have the Asian Dawn in there? No. Which reminds me, one of the coolest things that I've ever seen, my favorite Christmas memory, which I happened after Christmas, was getting to watch the video that you cut together of A Christmas Story and listening to Keith David sing at the end of
Oh,
that
well, unreal.
was the best.
Oh man.
I was so sad that we weren't able to be there because that even that I mean the whole thing is great, but that moment at the end where Keith David just sort of sings everybody to
Mhm.
off into the night was amazing.
Yeah, he did a wonderful job all around in the perform. First of all, I should point out, Yuri, that you were very much in the spirit of the whole thing. I know you couldn't attend, and you and Tara couldn't be part of the cast, but you did. You were responsible for bringing in a couple of ringers, and you very much helped that thing reach its finishing point in a way that I always have my best moments when I don't expect it. And that was one of those things where we just happened to catch it. And right after him, the guys from Hamilton went up and did a song.
Yeah, yeah,
They
which is crazy.
yeah, it was really a lot of fun. I mean, that was so he was so good about it, and Keith Carradine was so good about it. One of the
Yeah.
funniest moments about this whole thing is there's a break, as you know, have done doing Christmas Carol with us. There's a break where they do like a station ID and
Mhm.
they go, you're listening to A Christmas Carol featuring Academy Award winner Keith Carradine, Emmy winner Keith David, and Carolyn Hennessy. So they do that in the rehearsal, and we're all signing a poster because we dedicated the show to social services, a social service worker who's been in the trenches for about 40 years, and they're all signing the poster in secret.
Oh
We were
wow.
surprising her, and we did like the announcement prior to the show, prior to curtain, and we're all signing the poster, and Ian Buchanan walks up and he goes, you know, I have an Emmy too. And Carolyn Hennessy behind him, and she goes, and he actually worked for his, Somehow I left him off the awards list of the announcement. And he's like, he totally
Oh
shamed me at
no.
the signing. Anyway, we would have
No.
loved to have you to be a part of it. There's talk of doing Clue. I should probably just let it out of the bag. And maybe bringing in Jonathan Lynn, the original writer and director, to kind of put it together from New York. Would you be up for that?
Yes.
I think you'd be good because
Yes,
we
please.
we missed you. I will say we loved your suggestions, Brock and David, total
Yep.
heroes, and you guys
Right.
were all,
Good
including
guys.
you, You guys all came out to the Christmas breakfast for the kids from the shelter. You were all very cool about. You came out for 5 minutes. You had a fully loaded day, and you're very gracious to just put in your time, which everyone should pay homage to you for doing.
No,
But we missed you. We were saying even going into it because, and you can even do the Foley if you want, Yuri, because Roger, he had to rush his mom to the hospital the day before.
right.
And we had like this emergency powwow between Keith Farley, myself, and Fred Tatasciore. Like, well, how do we replace Roger? And because Yuri's out too, and we were like, we knew you weren't going to be able to do the show, but we also knew we couldn't go back to you. So that kind of came up in the discussion. We were like, man, that's like losing DiMaggio and Babe Ruth like the day before the game. We're like, what are we going to do? And then we got Aaron Fitzgerald. We were just calling around to be like, who can do the Foley and get up there with the door slamming and all that. And she's like,
the best.
I will do it. And she was great. She was so good, man. Yeah. I'm glad you watched it. You took the time to see it, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, you're very gracious.
Yeah, well, I was sad that we weren't able to be there. So,
oh man, next time. Look,
yeah,
you have been a hero. You and your wife have been heroes several times. No one has the right to be disparaging in any way towards you guys in terms of your heroics. It just didn't work out scheduling wise this time, and we missed you. I think every step of the way, we thought, man, it'd be great to have Yuri in on this. Not at the subtraction of somebody else, but in addition to.
But yeah, you can always add to this family.
Yeah, Keith David's surprisingly a total blast too.
Yeah.
Carradine, have you worked with Keith David on something?
I've worked with Keith David on something, and we worked together on a video game. Although we didn't get to record together, as we did like a dinner at Comic-Con for the game, and we got to sort of meet that night. And what a guy, man! He's everything you'd want him to be.
I mean, I was like, dude,
he's a lion.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, you were not only a gargoyle, but you battled the Thing and the fucking NVA.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's right, I did.
And now that I'm watching Gargoyles with Sagan with my son, and he's loving it, and I never finished the whole series, and we've sort of been working our way through it the whole time. It's Goliath. I mean, come on.
A class act. And
The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing is one of my favorite movies. So
our office at Warner Brothers is where they did the post on that, or at Warner Brothers at Universal is where they did the post on that. And it's 200 feet from stage 12 where they did all the interiors. So that movie is amazingly tight.
It is. It gets better every time I watch it yearly, and every time I think, oh, this is the time where it's not going to be as good as I remember it.
Yeah.
That never happens. It only gets better. It's one of the best ensemble casts of any film ever. I'd hold it up against any other film.
Yeah, for sure. It's unbelievable. And just the sense of intrigue, mystery, and paranoia it creates. I showed it to Sean and she loved it, which is great because then I didn't have to disown her. And it was
right. I know. I worry about that with Sega too. I'm showing a movie that I love, and I'm like, please like it. Because I don't know what to do if you don't.
I'm kidding, Sean. If you see this, I'm kidding, of course.
Right.
But she did like it. Totally. She got, I just remember like even where you look at like Albert Whitlock's matte paintings and they don't fully hold up, or the effects seem to be a little bit, now that we've advanced so much on the effects front, I still sit back and just enjoy the piece of like, wow. And they're still sort of trying to rip off the feel for it. I just saw a series on Hulu where they're up in the Arctic and there's like a murder mystery setting, and it's kind of a cross between Bear Island. Do you remember that movie with Donald Sutherland?
No.
That where they're like at the Arctic U-boat base and it's a murder mystery and Christopher Lee's in it and they're trying to figure out who's killing who and people are dying in strange circumstances. And
it's really called Bear Island.
Bear Island. It's on YouTube. It's on YouTube.
Yeah.
And you can see the whole thing. So they're all at an abandoned U-boat base and they're trying to figure out who the murderer is. So it kind of has a Bear Island kind of feel to it. 1979, just before the Thing. But it's such a great movie, man. And it was just kind of great we're like, dude, we're in the room with Childs, man. Everyone wanted to be like, so tell me how this motherfucker doesn't wake up with everyone wanted to bounce into it, but nobody did. Thank God everyone maintained some level of professionalism. Some level, not complete professionalism, but some level.
Right.
Have you seen Vikings Valhalla?
No. That's the Vikings show, right?
That's basically the spinoff of the Vikings show.
The spinoff of the Vikings show. No, I haven't seen it yet.
curious to get your take on it at some point. So I tend to find things because friends of mine are in them and they'll say, "Hey, I'm doing this thing,"
Right.
because there's just so much content out there. And so we started watching Vikings Valhalla. Adrian, Paul, and I are kind of comparing notes on it, but I thought maybe you'd seen it. What can you recommend? What is Yuri? Look, Yuri, you're the busiest guy on the planet. What are you watching? You're watching your own Young Justice reruns?
Right. I just watch Young Justice on a loop. Just Ben 10 all
you
the
show
time.
your son Young Justice, be like, "That's me. I'm the Goon Boy."
We do that. We watch like Ben 10, and he loves in Naruto and stuff like that.
Do
But
the kids in his class? Don't let me talk. I'm sorry to talk over, but I have a quick question before I forget. Do kids in his class believe him when he says you're the guy?
I don't know. It's weird. I kind of thought that when he got to a certain age and he got to, to school and he had some friends and they're all, I thought that there would come a time when his friends would be like, "Oh my God, you're the guy." And nobody's ever done that. And either he's so used to it now, he hasn't even brought it up at school, or his friends just don't think it's cool. I don't know. But nobody's come up to me. For lighthearted feel good shows, Tara and I watched recently. We watched Loot on Apple Plus, and it's just delightful. It's a great cast, and if you need something to feel better, that's good. And if you need like a one of these where I didn't think my heart could take it till the end of the season, Bad Sisters, also on Apple Plus.
Okay.
Bad Sisters is amazing. It's great.
It's amazing. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. There's an actor in it who plays a guy who's so bad that every episode you think, well, he couldn't get any worse. I couldn't hate this guy more. And then he would do something and you're like, wow, that guy's good. Good at being bad.
That is, I don't, you're scaring me, because I think I'm at a point where I don't like to watch TV to be antagonized. Like where I feel I need to,
it was hard.
Grab
That's
someone by the throat.
Loot afterwards.
Yeah. So that may beg the question, what am I watching if you're not, because all the TV seems to be like trigger TV.
Yeah, I know.
So it's like, but Loot and Bad Sisters. Wow.
Yeah. Those are the two most recent. I mean, I'll always go back to I'll always carry a torch for Patriot on Amazon Prime. It's not new, but I recently just started rewatching it because I loved it so much. If you want to see something really cool, watch Patriot. Nobody has, but you might as well.
Well, nobody has. Well, what's it about? Break it down for us.
I mean, it's a spy show, but it's super stylized, and it's like, in a way, if like the Coen brothers like fucked Wes Anderson and like they did a spy show together, it would sort of be Patriot. I don't know. It's hard. Okay. Steve Conrad, the showrunner, is this brilliant madman who keeps creating amazing shows like Patriot and Perpetual Grace Limited and Ultra City Smiths, like all these shows that are so weird and so cool that it seems like he's almost had no oversight. Like at some point somebody had to have said, you can't put this out. It's too weird. But he sticks to his guns, and he's got a great, I mean, his cast is always fantastic. You'll recognize like every single person.
Really?
And I don't understand why he's not getting what he deserves. But Steve Conrad is my hero.
Steve Conrad is your hero these days, huh?
My hero. Yeah.
Yeah, I was watching season 2 of Fargo. I know I'm late to the bus stop, but
no, that's okay. I came to it late too.
Yeah, I'm watching it going, by episode 3 or 4. Okay, so for those who've seen it or who haven't, this isn't really a spoiler, but this guy does a hit in a diner, runs out, gets hit on the highway by a lady. He goes through her windshield and she drives him home, and cleans up the scene. For whatever reason, she doesn't call the police, which is what you would think most of us would do, right? Like I hit a pedestrian. Right. She doesn't, and it kind of sends them down the rabbit hole of what the show ultimately is. But by episode 3 or by episode 4, I'm telling my wife, I'm like, I don't know how much longer I can watch a clown car of idiots cover up their idiocy. So,
right.
And I kind of feel like
that's every Coen Brothers movie.
Yeah, I know there's humor in it, but it's not enough humor to make me enjoy it. So I'm kind of like, wait a minute, these guys are doing what? And they're, and it's really well acted, and the cast is pretty fantastic. But I'm sitting there scratching my head, going, what? And Bokeem Woodbine, man.
Oh wow, yeah.
So good in it.
Yeah, that's his best. That's his best.
Yeah.
Um, and at least in Bad Sisters, you know that this despicable guy, you know from the very beginning he dies, and it's a lot of
Good.
flashbacks leading up to. But at least you know the sort of the sole consolation is you know this guy's a horrible person. You know he's gonna die.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it's just how does it happen? So
Have you heard about this Clue reboot they're doing with Ryan Reynolds?
I heard about it, but you know, people have talked about it over the years several times, and it's never. I mean, is it? Do we know? Is it like? Did they have they shot it? Are they doing it for sure? Do we know?
I don't know. I don't know. Like it's
Are they
interesting.
going to
There's
do? Are they going to do three separate endings? Like,
I don't
or are they
know.
going
Okay,
to?
so all right, in relation to that, an idea which original Clue director and writer said on this show basically that didn't work. He didn't like that idea. The three to I
Okay.
liked that though as a kid.
Yeah,
I thought that
because
was
nobody
kind of
else had
cool.
done anything like that at the time.
But do you know he told me there's a fourth ending that they didn't use where
No,
Wadsworth, Tim Curry is the killer and kills all of them basically.
no.
And that to me actually sounds like the best ending.
Yeah, that's got to exist somewhere, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't. He said he was under the impression that it was shot, but never really fully edited or cut together.
Mm.
So it's probably sitting in some film cans in somebody's, probably in John Landis's garage. I
Right,
bet. If
right,
I was a detective, I'd point to John Landis and say it's in his garage.
right,
Uh,
right.
because he was supposed to be the director on that, but he got caught up in something else, not
Yeah.
Twilight Zone. That would have already
Okay.
happened. I
Yeah.
believe that had
Yeah.
already happened.
Yeah. Twilight Zone was. Oh yeah, the timeline's fuzzy on that.
Yeah, he was on something, or
He
who?
definitely got caught up in Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh man.
yeah.
By the way, I saw a show that was Cursed Movies or something like that,
Uh-huh.
where they looked at that. That happened a few miles from where I'm at now. That tragedy, and that's what it
Really?
was. And that chopper hit the water with so much force that they must have felt the concussion blast on that thing in torrents.
Wow.
I did not
Wow.
realize. I had just heard about it. I had never seen footage of the
Of
accident
the yeah.
happening,
Yeah.
and you don't get to see. You don't get to see. Fortunately, you don't see the more gruesome aspects of it that we know about.
Good. Yeah.
But this thing went down, and I mean, I don't know what I'm expecting. Right, a chopper crash. You expect some
Sure.
velocity there,
Right.
but to see it was actually like shocking. Like to be like,
Wow.
oh
Wow.
man, like that is like that would to be in the presence of that would probably give me PTSD for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Had to. I'm sure
yeah,
everybody on that set still wakes up in a cold sweat.
yeah, and I think
Ugh.
and Mark Marshall, who was Steven Spielberg's assistant once upon a time, and I think at this timeline said Frank Marshall got him on a Spielberg on a plane right away and got him out of the country.
Really?
Yeah, so like just to avoid any questions or
Right.
speculations. I mean,
Just
Spielberg
distance
wasn't even
any.
there, I don't
Yeah.
think, but wasn't hadn't honestly Spielberg probably didn't even know. I've heard other people say that Spielberg didn't even want to shoot and was stalling shooting his sequence of that. Like, so Spielberg probably didn't even know what was going on, but for whatever
Right.
reason, they had him jump town.
Yeah.
You know,
It's strange. His segment of that film is my least favorite, I think.
the
I
one where the
think it's
kids become young, kick the can, right?
yeah, yeah, kick the can. I think the the worst of those.
Right.
Um,
Well,
yeah,
how do you make a shit film when the writing is so good on the original series? That's my question. Like,
yeah,
how do you
yeah.
go there with this?
Well, but like I love the George Miller one, the with John Lithgow.
Mm.
I love the Joe Dante one. Um, and
Don't
uh, and even the John Landis one was like but of those like the Steven Spielberg one was like
mm.
it was I don't know
the,
personal tastes but
Yeah, and that's what it is. And look, man, if this is a movie for you, I'm glad you guys got a movie to love. Keep
yeah
watch it 100 times
yeah
this week.
yeah
The Landis one is traditional, like Twilight Zone
yeah
lesson
classic
telegraphing, and we get it. But I mean, when you've
yeah
got things like and you said the Lithgow one, which I always
yeah
thought, man, too bad they couldn't get Shatner to do the cameo
yeah
as the Beast on the
I know
wing. You
oh
know,
that would have been yeah
like look, just I mean, come on, he was doing spoken word records, doing Rocket Man. Like he was
that's right
probably up, and this is at a time
Rocket
when,
Man yeah
yeah,
oh god yeah
you could probably have gotten him with the right offer. But yeah, so that would have been great. You open the curtain and it's Shatner as the I can't believe they haven't done Priceline commercials with the same theme, but whatever.
Because it's an airplane. Perfect.
But you got classic episodes like the wax killers that come to life, or Nightcaller, where the phone lines are in the grave, or even one of my favorites where the alien goes into the diner.
Oh yeah,
remember that?
Yeah,
and they're
and you don't realize who the alien is till the very end.
Right.
Yeah. And to serve man, and and Eye of the Beholder. Like, I mean, I own all of those. Like, whenever I'm like at a loss, I'll just put on Twilight Zone, just because I'll always feel good about it.
Absolutely brilliant. And To Serve Man starred my buddy, who's no longer with us, Keel, who was Jaws.
Oh, that's right. Richard Keel.
Yeah, one of the all-time legends. We did the final interview. Adrian Paul and I don't know if you know this. Speaking of Richard Keel and Jaws, the final interview of Roger Moore's life just before he died. He passed away 3 days later.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And I did not get a chance to ask him about Jaws, who I think they had a great friendship, those two.
Yeah. Makes me happy.
Yeah. I mean, look, don't hack on me for not getting around to Jaws. I know how the world is.
No.
The guests dictate often the course of the conversation, unless you're Yuri, and then I roadblock him into a bunch of questions he's got to answer like a police interrogation. Say, love you. Anyway, what else you got, buddy?
Just to start me on movies, and we could go all night.
Well, there's so many interesting. I don't get a chance to talk about it too much. I mean, I just had a conversation with a friend of mine in London about the resurrection of Shakespeare's actual theater on the actual site where it once was. So I've had a lot of really interesting historical conversations. We had a conversation about the fact that Marco Polo didn't exist, but Zorro actually may have, according to the Smithsonian. Wow. So with you, I mean, you can talk about everything. You're a brilliant conversationalist, and you can certainly go down the historical road and do a History Channel special with me. But with you, you're such a dynamic guy when it comes to all things entertainment. It's like, well, I know who to ask about the Oscar nomination. So I ask you, and you go, did those even come out today?
Right. I know.
Like, we're off to a ripping start. Anyway, but I don't know either. It's like people are talking about it. I'm like, what are these movies? Like, what? I haven't even heard of most of these.
I haven't. Yeah. And I'm not going to theaters regularly like I used to.
I still don't go
in the same way. Yeah, I've gone to a few, and I throw 2 masks on my face and try to sit away from people, or I'll go at noon to Grauman's Chinese Theater. It's like a 1,200 seat theater, and they're like, even if 60 people show up, it's the place is still empty.
Smart call, man. Like, I go at the 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock screening on a Tuesday.
Yep.
And get the theater to yourself. And then, of course, if somebody sits close to you, get up and move, which will make them even more anxious about the impression they're making. Like, make it a game when people sit next to you, like, get up and move over a little.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you because Cate Blanchett's nominated for something, I have no idea what it is.
Probably.
Yeah, that is what it is, actually.
Yeah. To the Todd Field film. No, I haven't. But I'm curious because he hasn't made a film in a long time, but he used to make really great films. It's one of those films, like, I know it's going to be kind of a brutal film, and I'll appreciate the performance, but it's not a feel-good film, and it's hard for me to really muster the except for like horror films. Like, I love, I'll go for horror films, but because those don't fill me with dread in the same way, like depressing dramas do.
Right. I don't know, why is that? Maybe because horror films out of the gate make you feel like
you already know this couldn't be real.
No, there was a guy in the horror hotel with a hockey mask and a machete, and I caught him from the top tier. I was shooting some of the production elements, and I caught him like doing the boogie down there, like he thought no one was watching, and he was kind of jiving with it. And I said, I got my TikTok, people. I just scored my TikTok shot of the night. He doesn't even know. Anyway, but yeah, there is something that's almost kind of like a wink out of the gate with a horror movie in a way. I haven't seen too many. Have you seen Black Phone?
That's funny. I just watched Black Phone, and I have a lot of problems with the story, like so many problems, but I still really enjoyed it. Like, I'm like, I can pick it apart really easily, and yet I loved it when I was watching it.
What is that thing about movies where they break the logical boundaries of the context they're operating in, yet you still enjoy them? Like, there is just a way that people can deliver something that's fun, even though it makes no sense. Like, I was just talking to some of the guys that were on Empire Strikes Back, and they were talking about how they stepped on Darth Vader's cape in the Echo Base sequence and almost garroted him. But it led to a conversation about, like, in the Star Wars universe, when you can when you can park on top of a building in a Star Destroyer, why are these walking machines?
Right.
And why is there a stationary gun turret that cannot move, that has zero mobility, and like is just a sitting? So we were having this stupid conversation, right? And like, okay, I know where everyone's going with this. I can feel the hate when this airs through, right. But it's like, you still love the movie and the sequence, even though even in the world it creates, it's got like no teeth to it when you think about it.
Yeah.
So what is that like?
And,
why?
I don't, and I'm okay with like being confused why something is, but what always gets my goat is, and I find it hard, like once it happens in a movie, it's hard for me to get back in, is if they set up very specific rules and then they break those rules because because it was easier or whatever, or they really want to do something cool. So they did the cool thing, even though it goes against the rules that they set up. Because my gripe is, look, if you want to do that thing, then just change the rules from the beginning so you can do that thing. Don't let us know exactly what the rules are, and then just be like out the window.
Yeah.
So I have less of a problem with, why would you have a stationary gun turret like that that's sitting duck, and much more. I think a good example. And I don't know, but like you set up that magic doesn't work in this world. And it's like a plot point, and we set it up in the beginning, and then later on they do some magic stuff because they wanted to have a big fireworks show at the end. And I'm like, well, but you didn't. I mean, you could have just said fireworks magic works in this world, but no, well, you could have set it up, and then I'd be like, oh, of course, fireworks magic. I don't know. It's lazy. It's lazy, and it makes me mad.
I think the first thing I have to confess is I absolutely love Empire Strikes Back and the sequence we're talking about.
Yeah.
Why in the age of hover technology and flight, they have walking mechanisms moving towards the target? But, obviously for the spectacle of it, I love it. But,
it was
I'm
the coolest. Yeah. When you were a kid, it was the best.
See, I have a hard time explaining to people the world before Star Wars. Like now we've seen so much like that. Like I was trying to tell someone young, like, I was 5 when Star Wars came out, and I don't know what it was, 7, 8 when Empire came out, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, not saying this, but reacting in this fashion of like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, what did I just see? Like, it totally changed everything. I mean, look at the sci-fis. I mean, Logan's Run came out around the same time as Star Wars. Look at the difference. Logan's Run's a great concept, by the way.
Yeah.
But just look at the production difference, the production levels of production integrity. In a sense, it's like Logan's Run. You could see like the fishing line drawing the little cars through the tunnels in Logan's Run, pulling them through, and these guys dressed in these beautiful colors. And then you look at Star Wars, and you're like, oh man, this movie means business. But I think a lot of what you're talking about comes across, or feels like to me, as studio notes.
Yeah.
And when I was at Warner Brothers, I remember they always sent studio notes over, starting with the word "we feel," not the one executive, but we. Like there was a gang of people,
right?
Like you had already lost the popular vote when the note arrived.
Right.
Like,
yeah,
we feel the turret should be stationary. Oh, there was no notes on Empire Strikes Back, for anyone who's wondering, probably because it was essentially an independent production. But but I just feel like what you're talking about is like, we need a bigger sequence, so incorporate magic. And somebody says there is no magic, and they go, no, just make it happen.
Yeah. And they're like, well, we already shot this stuff. I guess we just gotta go with it.
Where there's the famous story from Legion, which turned out to be Exorcist 3, right? Where the executives come down to see Blatty, and they're like, can you work an exorcism in this? And they're like, no, there's no. Well, we want to call it, or they say, we want to call this Exorcist 3. And he's like, but there's no exorcism in it. And they tell him, just come on, write it in. And he's like, all right.
All right. I guess I've already cashed the check.
Yeah. I'm amazed that he did it, actually. But
3 is great. 3 has one of the greatest jump scares. And it is.
Okay. Now, I love 3 too. It gets a bad rap because it's got 3 in the title.
Sure.
And it should have been titled something completely different. I think like Halloween 3, it would have been an entirely better received. You're talking about the jump scare in the hospital.
In the hospital, in the hallway, yeah. As you're looking down the hallway, yep.
Really some exceptional filmmaking, right?
Yep.
It's done really well. Okay, I just want to make sure I'm not crazy because I was arguing
Nope.
that point with somebody else who
You're right. You're right. It's
thought it was a hack job.
incontestable.
Yeah.
I gotta get going. I could do this all day, but
No,
I
I'm
gotta.
sorry,
I
brother.
mean, yeah.
I
No,
told
no,
you
no.
20 minutes, and you know what? Our we always need the rating spike that Yuri Lowenthal provides. So I'm shameless about it. I'll circle back on the clue thing and everything else, and thank you for being you. We love you, man, and I appreciate you giving me the time, buddy. I'll reach out to Tara about her book. Anything in closing?
Okay. Yeah. Man, look forward to that new Spider-Man game this year because it's gonna be awesome.
When's the release date on that?
I think sometime in 2023. I think probably the fall. They don't tell me that kind of stuff, but I think that's what they said it was gonna be.
Yuri, we love you, man. Have a good day, buddy.
Love you. Thanks.
See you. Bye.